Hello, how are we doing? Who was there? Sorry I'm late. Last minute technical problems with sound, of course. Okay, let's get the chat out. Right, don't mind me. Just Hi everyone, Hutch here, and I'm actually live now. So if you fancy tuning in, the link is in the bio on here, and I'll see you very shortly. Okay, bye. Hi everyone, Hutch here, and I'm live on my YouTube channel. So why don't you come over there? It's all happening now. See you soon. Hi Stelly. I was just doing Instagram, but then completely lost the plot. Right. How are you doing? Right. Yeah. Oh, just clear off some of my screens. That's it. Well, what a weekend it's been. I've absolutely done tons of stuff. Loads of videoing, loads of guitar playing. Excellent. Glad you could make it. I was on slightly late, so I had basically, because we were doing videos, we were videoing like for the Rebel sort of remake that I've done. Sorry, no, it was for the Magnador track that we did, that feature with Magnador. I was videoing for that. Oh, there's Phantom Shade. Hello, how's it going? I don't think I haven't seen you on here for a while. So yeah, so the everything was like kind of wasn't ready for a live setup basically, so I had to set it all up this morning, and then basically my streaming interface decided not to show up on Ecamm, so then I had to like get behind the wires and fiddle with that a bit. But it's all looking good now. But yeah, when you're doing videos, like it's completely, total disruption. But it was cool because when we're doing the video, after we got like loads of black cloth and we just blacked this room out, and then I just shot without a LUT on, so hopefully it looked good. It looked really good in the camera what we were doing, um, but yeah. You can be on whatever account you want. Is Phantom Shade subscribed? That's important. There we go. Excellent. You're back. So yeah, did the videoing, and then what else has happened? And then just fighting the good fight on guitar. Like, what a mission that is. I mean, again, like all music, these things are these things are lifelong. But I've got into like so many things that I want to do, and they've all come at me at the same time. I don't know if anybody else has had this, but it really is. I'm quite aware of it. So I'm practicing like a lot of new stuff. And I've gone a bit bluesy as well. But yeah, so let's have a think. What is it? So there's been all the 212 Tim Miller stuff, but I noticed like I'd had a little while off that, and then completely lost it a bit, and then had to get that back. So that's been one thing, and then just getting back into trying to develop my chromatic playing. Then balancing out your improvisation, which is great because actually at the weekend I worked out that like every week in one of the kind of sessions I can do, it's almost like live like this. So I can do literally 2 hours playing, just jamming the tracks straight, which is brilliant on electric guitar. So really enjoyed that. Oh yeah, and then my work guitar, not a Kiesel, had an accident, and I had to get that kind of sorted out, which kindly it did. So I have one of those gig bags, right? And I went to put it on my shoulder like this. So I got out the cupboard. Imagine this, right? Acoustic guitar. Put it on my shoulder, and I was just putting this arm in, and then the strap snapped. It came away at the bottom. And this is like a newish bag. It's only about 4 months old. And it just completely snapped at the bottom. The guitar just slid off my back and like bounced off like hard resin floor. And I heard the way that it hit. I thought that's not really good, so I looked at it and it was like split up right up the top, and the kind of the support bar inside was like obviously loose, because when I was playing it, it sounded really good actually, because it sounded like it had a fuzz pedal on. So that was like a nightmare. And then I had to take it in. Like the shop just went, "Oh yeah, we'll replace it all." But I don't use the most like it would be kind of unwise for me to use like the best acoustic guitar in the world. So opt for something cheaper, but then I have to spend a little bit. It has to go to my guitar tech to get sorted out. So I don't know. It's like a $500 guitar, right? But then I have to spend another like $100 on it, actually getting it sorted out. Because the thing is, like I play acoustic a lot of the time, so I need some compatibility between that and jumping between an electric guitar and gauge 10. So it has to play light, which can be done. So the guitar tech just took the action down, but it requires like filing the frets and fiddling on and faffing about, and he did like an amazing job. It plays really, really good. But actually, I tell you what, it's amazing like how on certain guitars how playable you can get them. Like cheap guitars, once you just get a guitar tech on it and you're very specific about what you want, can done. So I mean, like, $500 guitar now plays like a $700, but sounds still like a $500 guitar. But it plays like an expensive one. But yeah. Talking about, yeah, so that was my acoustic guitar nightmare. And yeah, there we go, acoustic guitars. But honestly, it's like sometimes if I do a lot of playing, like it doesn't stop. It's not relentless. It's relentless. I can't like go, oh, I can't play anymore. I've just got to get on and play. It's like working in a factory sometimes, and which is great because like, you know, it kind of pushes you more. But the problem is you're like really prone to like injuries, you know, and I've probably played over the weekend because like my hand feels like totally sometimes it feels like I've got gloves on on this hand after I've been playing a while. But I'll tell you what, I was looking at I stumbled upon John Petrucci's Rock Discipline, and he does like he does this, doesn't he? He does like some warm up exercises, pushing in there, massaging this. So I'm doing my massaging John Petrucci massaging exercises. Of course, I'll never remember because as soon as I see a guitar, I just get excited and grab it and start shredding. You know, it's a bit like it's like a pigeon, isn't it? I just like see the guitar and then instinct kicks in, and you know I gravitate to it, and then the next thing I'm playing it, there's no warming up to it. It's just doing it. You know, I don't think about it. So, yeah, it's what we love. It can't help it. Yeah, that's it. It's just like instinct, isn't it? That's why I love having guitars. That's why now, you know, despite having a lovely house that I'm in, I actually just like with the beds in the basement, like with all the equipment. It's mad, isn't it? Yeah. So, so I'm trying to think where we're up to with tracks and things because there's that much going on. Oh yeah, and then I had a coaching meeting with this guy called Jess Cannon. Oh, you should look him up. So basically, yeah, I had a call with him and it was very, very interesting. So that was all about promoting bands, i.e. my band, Freakstar, actually the Mrs. band, Freakstar, and some McLaughlin Hutch on the start releasing. So it was really good, like some of the stuff I found out, which we will see in the coming months. But yeah, so there's been a lot of like stuff happening on that, writing pitches to playlist curators. It's been something. I'll have to set up the Spotify for Freakstar tonight. It's the deadline for that. So that's my other job. Oh, I've got to set up Calendly as well for my guitar lessons and one-to-one coaching. Must remember to do that. And yeah, there's that thing. So yeah, writing pitches was cool, and I'm looking forward to it. So we've got the Magnador. It's not like, actually, I don't think a single is coming out. It's more like a B-side at first. That'll be the first thing, and then the kind of legacy materials start coming out. But it's a big campaign, this, because I mean there are 4 or 5 new tracks, but then there's like 30 to 31 I mean, I'm not even sure if we'll release completely all of them, but then if you think about it, there's another 30 tracks on top of that, and the idea is you're releasing about 1 a month. So that's going to happen over the next 2 years. 1 track. But I think it'll be really interesting seeing kind of what happens, especially with the new material, because I really like the new material, right? But it's like, from a musical point of view, I think like I love it, in production and all that kind of stuff. It's great. But back in the day, the songs, you know, it's a different mindset. But back then, when you listen to the old material, a lot of it is just like, we're writing hit records. That's all like we're bothered about. This has got to be catchy. This has got to be punchy. And like just having songwriting with everything in the right place, like all the hooks and all that kind of stuff had to be right. And you know, we used to write and write and write. And I just, you know, sit for hours with a guitar, just playing around chords and riffs and stuff like that, with Sharon just constantly singing everything, and then eventually we'd get some traction that would be recorded, you know, and we'd do a few of those in a day. It was quite insane, like how much stuff got done. But an interesting process, because it's just really like disorganized splurging, really, if that's actually possible, because actually splurging is meant to be disorganized, but it was disorganized in terms of like we couldn't really record that much material. So the process would be, I mean, when we very first started, we just had a 4-track for the kind of rough ideas, and then I would start trying to flesh it out with MIDI and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember I had a 4-track, and basically we used to, in case, because we lived in a bit of a rough area, we used to keep the 4-track in the oven. We used to hide it in the oven and then go out. That's funny, isn't it? It was the most valuable thing. So yeah, it would go in a bag and then in the oven and keep it in there. And then you had to remember not to switch the oven on to heat your food. Those are the days. I just remembered that. But yeah, the process was, you know, like it was really hard. It was like just ridiculously hard work, and you needed to be just full time just to do one simple thing. Like it was really painful. So if you'd imagine, then the song gets written, it's a rough, and then you know, I would have to then sit in a studio with all this MIDI gear. Now, when you're running MIDI, there's no instant recall, so the whole thing from start to finish would be done, and you couldn't stop, and that was it. So I'd be on there working on this track. And I've just remembered another thing. So, of course, you couldn't finish the thing in a day, right? You know, it might take 3 days, it might take the best part of a week. I mean, I did, when we first started, 3 or 4 tracks, like in 2 weeks, you know, and that was really going for it. And one of the things that would happen is, if you could imagine, I'd have 2 W30s and S2000, so you'd be loading those up with floppy disks, right? Or till it upgraded to like the S2000 with SCSI. And then loading up the W30, putting its patches on, getting the CX1X with its patches on. So it'd be like 3 or 4 synths. I'd have a Planet S. That was just weird to use. So I'd have all of this kind of weird and wonderful like MIDI, like proper keyboards, and you'd switch everything on. It would sound different. You'd think like the equipment in itself that used to like not, and I think that's to do with it heating up and cooling down. But things would sound slightly different. So then you'd start fiddling with the sound to try and get it back to what you remembered the day before, which is obviously impossible. And also, you know, the thoughts and feelings that I always talk about, that would have been a big part of it as well. So you're chasing your tail with that, and then eventually, you know, the inspiration kicks in, if there's any left, and then you start getting to work, you know. But the whole thing would be done. And then what you'd do is you'd get your mix, and it'd be finally what you would think done. And then you would run it onto a DAT. And I think at one point I had a TC finalized with a wizard function, and I'd run the mix through it before it hit the DAT, and you could push the wizard and it would just like master it for you. Totally ridiculous. Yeah, we have it so good now, Sean, honestly. You know, so and then everything would have to go down to DAT, and then you'd realise, I mean, it's a bit like that release thing, isn't it? When you start then playing it and it's recording it, and you know this is going to end and everything's going to have to shut down, and you're going to have to switch it off, pull the faders down, and it's gone, and then you're on to the next track. You hear your music in a different way, and then suddenly there'll be like little tweaks and stuff to do. But the trick was not tweak it to the point that you actually destroyed the whole thing. But yeah, it's like, it was just crazy times. But a lot of that stuff's all done like that, and it sounds pretty. I mean, obviously there's like, it's a lot more basic in a lot of ways. But in other ways, there's a kind of real sound to it, like Bulletproof and things like that, and Rebel and Blowout particularly. I think Blowout was done in Cubase. I think that was the last song I did in Cubase. Yeah, and I think for that one I could record the guitars into the computer, because I remember like at one point I had like a Yamaha O2R desk. You could have the desk, but you could actually buy the PCI card to put in your computer, and I had one of those. And then, well, what actually happened is, then when I got my good gear, that's like, then, I mean, this is like way back when I don't think, there wasn't that many people really, apart from dance producers, kind of doing stuff completely on their own. And then we got sort of lucky. We were putting stuff out, and this company called Arpix Media got in contact and went, "Oh, we love all of your stuff, more to license it to these like TV programs over in Canada," that ended up on MTV. And then that was brilliant, because then suddenly a load of money for nothing kind of fell on us. And then I was able to buy pretty much my dream studio, which was really good. I mean, those were the days. And I remember posting, there was no, like, we had to post the CD to them to Canada. Can you believe it? And it was a brilliant contract, because you get like decent money, and they could only use a track. They could only use like something like 3 excerpts, and then they had to renew. They had to renew the license. So we kept getting multiple renewals on stuff, and that went on for a couple of years. It's brilliant. I mean, like now, I reckon for programs like that, they could pretty much, unless they've got it off the shelf. I think the musical director people can just sit in front of an AI and just keep prompting it. That would be good enough. If they're wanting a bit of incidental music or something like that. Need some, man walks down a dark alley, some sad violins or something like that, and then it'll kind of that'll be close enough. I'll just use that. I'll try not to go on an AI rant. So yeah, so I've got the new track that we were working on the other day, which called Red Dawn. We are going to prepare that for some guitar. So there's a few things. I had a listen to it a few days ago, or a day ago. I can't remember. It was either Friday or Saturday. So I had listened to it, and I put some notes down on what to do, and that's what we're going to do. Basically, that is our job for today. How many people are on? And then obviously the shameless plugs. Basically, anybody watching, or watching after the live, do subscribe to the channel. And anybody watching who is interested in music coaching, give me a shout. The email's in the description, and we can do a free 1-to-1 for half an hour. And you can find out more about it, which is the best way to find out if it's a fit for you. What are the artifacts on? Like, everything looks fine here. All right. I'll tell you what though, the sound thing, right? Right. Well, it's one or two things, right? We'll do an experiment. Sound only, right? Yeah. I think generally, this computer is all right. Okay, 1 2 1 2. I think it's yeah. I think it's going to be an upgrade because it's slightly out of sync. And I think a lot of these issues are coming from the fact that I wonder if you can do it whilst the live's happening. So just drop that down a bit. Yeah, so I think. Oh god, see the ghosting effect on the prompter. Yeah, I think it might just be done. Well, the other thing is the projects have been a bit heavier as well. And then the other thing is I am running the cameras 4K on the capture cards. Yeah. So it might be because I'm running 4K here into the capture card, and 4K from the cameras into the capture cards, and then what I'm doing is for the video, I've got basically hold on, I need to get this delay sorted. See if that's any better. And then basically I've got the stream set to 1080. So that's what I've done there. So the stream's set to 1080 and the cameras are at 4K. I mean, I quite like the look. I mean, it's like the thing is, when you get the guitar out, the reason I did it is, when we're zooming in, like that's so much more better, isn't it? It's like really sharp. But I'll investigate later after the stream. I'll at least get it like sort of the timing going. I don't know what's doing the scaling. So the cameras, the hardware's on 4K, and then Ecamm is like set to stream at 1080p. So if that's what you mean, so technically it's Ecamm doing the scaling. But it just means that when I'm doing the zoom in shots and stuff like that, and I'm able to crop in these shots as well. So I get a much better shot now because I can slightly crop in. But I think it's just that like the M1 now probably struggles a little bit. So Christmas, we're going to limp along like this. And then I think Christmas, when I've got like time like to do this, then I'll upgrade the computer, and then the rest will be history. It'll just be whatever Apple's got at the time. I'm not going to wait for the M4. I'm just getting M3. Yeah. Don't be that. Because the other thing is, right, Stelly, is like I've got like this Red Dawn project, okay, up, and it's had a little bit of work. There's more plugins on there and stuff like that. There's quite a bit going on my template. So the Ableton template puts a little bit of load. And what you've also got to remember is that I'm running my latency really low. It's like 128 samples. So I get a round trip of under 6 milliseconds. Or 6 milliseconds thereabouts. So the latency is like a real big issue. So I have to keep that down because the way I have my mic set up is it goes directly into Ableton, and then I can put all my plugins on it and make it sound good. And when you're wearing headphones, I can't talk when I'm just wearing headphones and not hear my voice. I have to hear my voice as well. So that's the thing. So I'll do it this way. So it'll be, a mixture of all those things. It's just like with anything, it's a balancing act. When we go back to kind of starting tracks from nothing, then it'll be less problematic. If I was to do a live, like where I'm just jamming, I don't think there'd be any issues, because I'm just running a couple of guitar plugins and some backing tracks, and that is it. Okay, so I didn't really have any theme to talk about today, apart from, let's look at this track of mine, of ours. Right, let's have a look. And we're in the secret garden. So a few things going on. So there's the rough guitars on there, which we did. So I'm kind of keeping those on there for now while we're listening back. And there's still a solo to do. Well, all the guitars are going to get redone. So this is kind of like one of the new sort of conditions of the machine. Really, is that this can go. This is it. Well, I've made the decision on to actually release this. So, I mean, this will technically go into release now, and as part of the release thing, even though we've got to mix the track, it's perfectly fine to then sort of re-record your guitars. So if you were doing all live instruments and you were like kind of just quickly throwing something together, and say you did everything live, like your drums a lot, and you just quickly got on your drum kit and you did like some beats and they were just good enough, there was 70%, but there were still mistakes, and like everything had something slightly wrong or not quite right, then effectively when you got into release, you've got the full picture of what the song's going to be. You only need enough information to be able to make a decision on whether you can actually put the rest of the work in to release it. That's all it's about, isn't it? Because if you think about it, you save a ton of time deciding not to release something. And if you're not going to release something, it means you don't have to mix it, you don't have to re-record anything, you just need a representation of that a low-res representation of what the idea is going to be. That's it, isn't it? But there's absolutely no point in finishing everything and then just thinking that like this isn't like what I want to do with my life, and then just put it away and then never look at it again. So for us busy professionals, this system's very, very good, isn't it? Because we're not having to put time in for the mix. I'll just get my chart. There it is. So yes, so we're not putting that in. I believe Macs are not as good for stream. Well, you might be right, but I can't use a PC. That's the only thing, Stelly. It'll do. It'll be good enough. It'll get us there. So this way, yes, we'll save a lot of time there, which means I can sit here and talk to you a lot more. Right. So I'm gonna do a direct listen. So the direct listen today, let me have a think. I'm going to do a space direct listen. So the idea on the space direct listen is the anchor on this is that I'm listening for the space in between notes. That's what I'm doing. So it might be that I just focus in on the snare or something like that and just listen to that. But ideally, it's the space in between notes that I'm focusing on. And that's what I'm doing to quieten down my judgmental thinking. Oh, so there. Look, there's Gramps. How are you doing, Gramps? Good to see you on here. You weren't on before. You didn't make a comment, and I've been ignoring you, have I? No, you just come on now. All right, Gramps. We're doing a direct listen, but I'm sure you're probably on just before. Space in between notes. The other thing about space in between notes, this is another I'm a fan of direct listening whilst I'm actually improvising on guitar. Okay, and it's a real fun thing to do, and it's a really great way of keeping you engaged, because I'll tell you what, like, when you're improvising, especially in front of people, and you make a wrong note, it's really, the judgmental thinking just comes in and bites you, doesn't it? It's like, there you go, typical, you didn't practice hard enough, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, quickly, you're going to have to play this now. And then we get all of these kind of thoughts, don't we, with the kind of anxious feeling in our bodies, which is just like, the emergency goes on, the sirens going in your head, wee, wee. It's like chaos. It's like, the Millennium Falcon about to crash, and Star Wars going on in your head. So direct listening is a really good way to sort of unwind yourself out of that, or not even get into that in the first place, right? So space in between notes is a really, really good one, because it gets you playing really tight and it gets you playing quite sort of accurately. But the other thing it does is when you're listening to the space, you're spending more attention in listening to what's actually happening in the music around you, So, I'll flick from space in between notes when I remember to do this. It's like meditation, I'll forget, like I forgot to do 5 minutes today. So that'll make it, that direct listening will quieten your mind down from all that negative thinking of failure when you're jamming, and also make you more aware of the music. But then the other one is the tension release listen. So obviously we can't draw the map out as we're improvising, but what we can do is we can feel tension and release in our bodies, and I really like to play with that. Especially now, I use a lot of chromaticism. So, like when you're playing chromatically, that can create quite a lot of tension because there's less space between notes. Also, just having notes of close intervals together creates a lot of tension, doesn't it? Playing fast creates tension. There's certain like rhythmic things you can do, or just playing on one note or on a certain interval can create like tension all the time. And then trying to kind of release it, releasing into a bend or releasing onto a note that's more sympathetic to the chord. And what we can do is we can actually, instead of listening to the music and the notes, so it's a very heady thing, what we can do is we can feel the tension and release in your body. And I do this with backing tracks just to, as training, as just play and find out what things in your, vocabulary, not arsenal, vocabulary of playing like works. What elements and things do you do now that could work to create that tension and release? So it's a really good thing to do when you're improvising, and it's a great way to A, practice your guitar, and B, practice your ear, practicing listening to music. Because honestly, like, Spotify, internet, it's like destroying everybody's attention span. It's like they're like fleas, aren't they? It's chaos out there. Right, here we go. Let's have a listen. Right. It's all coming together. So the guitars are like the notes are right, the performances aren't. The sounds are right though. So I'm kind of happy with what's sort of going on there. Um, and the tension release I'm getting with the melodies is good. I like it, especially that end solo. It sounds like very right as something to end on. Thanks, Sean. I'm glad you like it. And so we're going to get this prepared for that. I mean, there are some things that definitely need addressing on this. So I'm going to have a look at the what I put down in Trello. One thing that's bothering me, and it's like always the cliched example that I gave about not getting on board with your thoughts, is actually the snare's completely wrong on this track. In my opinion. It'd probably do. It wouldn't stop anybody having a good time, you know? Add tropical stuff, no hi-hats. Oh, that's interesting. Right. I thought I'd done a list for this. Right. It's not even that, Sean. It's actually the snare is like, it's too like EDM. It's like Skrillex in the background. It's like wrong. It's so it's interesting that like, so I hear things a little bit different to that. This isn't a discovery list, is it? I'm going to count this as release. It's the start of release. So So there's a boutique label that I really like called Pink Flamingo, and they primarily really is it My Pink Flamingo they're called, and primarily they're just very small, but they have some cool music on there, and it is like vaporwave, but it's like clean sounding vaporwave, so using the elements, but the production doesn't sound like they're being over the top, like completely trashing it. So like I do like the kind of production values that they have on that label, and I do listen to that quite a bit. And that's sort of what I'm leaning into, is that idea. And like a lot of the stuff that I've been doing, new stuff with Freakstar, have had like some sort of, it's always been pretty much the kick and snare, very vaporwavy. We're gonna have a look at that. I don't know where that was coming from. So it must have been the other track I was listening to the other day. Say, don't know what I'm doing. But we do need to add. I remember these. Yeah, right. Gorilla. I can't spell gorilla. Gorilla. Drive. To beats. Add. I think it might be Ladybird. To FM lead. But don't know what's wrong with my typing today. Right, there's some stuff, right? From lead, make space. Right, and then there was, oh yeah, bass note on here. Do you know what? I think what it is I think my Trello on my computer isn't updating itself. Because I'm sure I did all this. It's like that snare has like trails on it, Sean, but it's just completely the wrong. Oh, I've got to update my app. Bear with me. Yeah, but it's we'll pick out the right one. I'll sharp find it. Yeah, it was Rebel. Oh, the guitar and single notes. Right. I'm sure there was a note on here. Okay. I know what I'm doing. Right, snare first. I'll just do a save as. Oh, come on. It's not allowing me to type in there. Yeah, there's too much. There's a clap and then there's a snare, and it's just not good. So we're going to change that. Let's get a random title. Right, that's my drums saved. Okay. Select none. So one thing I've just noticed now. Okay. So I moved my sample library, and it's not kind of showing up how I want it to. Let's just check. It's going to be one of those sessions, isn't it? Right. I need to do the scan, don't I? Right. So. Right, I'll just do a quick fix on this. Sorry about this. Splice. Right. And then I'll do the rest properly later. I wonder if it'll do it. I'm hoping it'll do it really quick. I haven't got time for it. Right, I'll move on. I'll come back to that and we'll do it later. So. Okay. Bass first, I think. We'll get the Gorilla Drive out. So I used this on another track and it came out really good on the SH101. It's about. Gives it a really nice sort of. Makes it growl. Alright. Job 1 done. So I just want to make sure like spatial effects are off. Okay, and then we're going to try Ladybug. That's what it's called. So I'm quite into these. These are like, they're really fun. Right. So this wasn't the one I used, because I distinctly remember a low pass and a high pass filter on it. So it must be Flamingo. That's better. So when you turn the time knob, what actually happens is it changes an IR from like spring to plate to like hall. So that's one, but I'm not convinced that was it. That sounds good. Could be the dirty dog, because it's not dirty enough. This is it. Right. So it's good, you're getting to see all these different reverbs. It's not the Flamingo, it's got to be this. Yeah, this is it. This is what I want. Right. That's what I want. Excellent. Hi, Des. Actually, I'm glad you're on here, Des. That's if you're still here, because I was just trying to fix like loads of technical issues. Anyway, tomorrow we're going to be recording guitars tomorrow morning if you're about, so I'll need you on duty for guitar quality control. And there's a ton of stuff to do. There's like 16. Yeah, there's a good 20. There's 24 bars of like written stuff that needs to be re-recorded, polished up, slightly developed, notes tweaked, and then there's another further 8 bars of total shred. So it's like, yeah, so tomorrow we need to repair 3 lots of guitars, and there's basically 1 guitar solo which we can kind of write as well, and that's it. So you're gonna need your flip chart, quality control, audit, note audits. Send the invoice, yes, to the council. You need to send it to Newcastle Council. Okay, so that was that done. Right, what's up? There's a lot of noise on that. There we go. And I'm interested in using one of these Ladybird plugins on that little. Doesn't need it. Try Dirty Dog. That's quite good. It's messing up with my delay, so. That's it. auto gain doesn't really do anything. Time machine. Let's see what this does. Very good. But that just kicks out loads. I don't want the noise. Quite nice. Let's see what RC does. Oh, that's nice. Right, so it's off there, right? Oh, that's quite nice. That's good. And then very good. That's all good there. That's good. That's got nice atmosphere. Again, I'm going to get some Gorilla Drive onto this. Yeah, the Safari pedals are really good. I mean, they've got like I'll show you something that's really quirky. Let's pick something. This is really good. The camel strip. I mean, I don't know if I would use it on everything. Stick it on the drums, maybe. Stick it on this. It's a good little vibe unit. I mean, straight away you can hear the vibe on that kick. Take that. So, right, what have we got here? I'll take the gate off. So you've got a choice of EQ, so that's 4K, that's SSL, Neve, Pultec. Drive. So you've got a reverb, which I never use. Compressor. Fairchild. LA2A. That's quite nice, isn't it? 1176. Actually, what's the 2A? I'm not sure. Must be like a bus compressor. For SSL, maybe. Guessing. Alright. So it's like definitely got vibe. Quite like the default setting. How's the chat going? Yeah, so, well, Safari did a bit of a deal with me. Like, if I showed it on here, I got like a load of discount off it, and I just got the lot of it. So yeah, like I really like their stuff. It's starting to really kind of creep in with what I do. I mean, just adding the plugins that I've done, it's given the whole track a certain like vibe now. I'm getting more of that. Like, I really like that kick, but that friggin' snare's annoying me. So I need to sort out immediately. Yeah. So that's my drum programming. And actually there's no mixing. That's just selecting sounds. Hi Paul, how you doing? Oh, and of course, Mellors, hello. Good to see you on here. Anybody who hasn't subscribed, subscribe. Anybody who's interested in coaching, there's a new group starting. I'd like to see some new people in. So that'd be good to start a new group. It's very reasonably priced, so I will coach you / teach you, but more coaching. To make absolutely tons and tons of music. That's what it's all about. And it's a very structured program, but it's designed around facilitating the skills that you already have primarily, and getting you to use those skills to full effect, and creating huge amounts of momentum, and therefore being able to finish and hopefully release lots and lots of music, you know. It's a very exciting time to be doing music now and to be releasing music. You know, the playing field is level, and it's interesting. So I'm getting back into releasing stuff with my old band now, Freakstar, which is just me and my other half. And I had a meeting with Jess Cannon, who's like a bit of a industry expert on sort of how to market music, and there was some real interesting stuff that I got off him, so I've been kind of trying all of that out. So this campaign of 30, so there's like 30 old tracks to be released, and then 4 or 5 new ones, I think, which are all going to be coming out over the next couple of years. So there's going to be something getting released every month. But I have people on my coaching group who I don't know if he's here yet, like Z, who just always seems to have like a whole album of finished music, and he actually, his release, like usually he's about a year ahead on his release roster. Which is like amazing, isn't it, to be able to kind of have that. And I remember when I was on the doing a lot of dance music, I was always like at least 6 months ahead of myself. I always had like 6 months of material in the pipeline with other record labels. So you're always thinking about six months ahead, and to do that, you've got to have tons of music, and the way to make tons of music is to literally just use the skills that you've got, because I can guarantee now that I believe everybody has the skills to make great music, okay, to make music as good as anybody else. It's just what we need to hear is we need to hear something unique, and it doesn't have to be technically flash or amazing. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to make everything sound worse, really, by adding Gorilla plugins on everything. Do you think it's better to release what you have or to hold it back, take breaks, listen to songs, make changes, etc.? Right, okay. I think, and I'll switch to this, that what you have to do is you have to develop your own feedback system. So again, I coach people on here. It's a system that I was coached on called PAFS, okay? And what PAFS is about is a way to evaluate your music, especially in the release stage. So for example, rather than like sometimes, right, I don't get into the taking break thing. So I have a music machine, which means I can work on different tracks at different points of their creative journey, okay? So sometimes I might just have a rough idea and I'm discovering what that idea wants to be, and then I can be like in another session doing some release stuff, and it might be mixing, and that'll be a different track, and then I could be structuring another track on a session, and I have what's called the music machine, which catalogs where everything is, and it's very easily set up. And each stage has like a certain like processes that you can go through and games you can play with yourself that helps you just make music and it takes a lot of the pain away. But what you're talking about is, taking a break from a track. I always recommend when you're working in the machine 3 to 7 days gap between when you're working on a track, because what this focuses on is working on multiple tracks. That's the first thing. But, sometimes we can't do that. But for whatever reason, what always happens is this thing called PAFS. Now, when you have a piece of music, right, that piece of music usually has a purpose, even if it's just a structure and an emotional journey, okay? But fundamentally, the purpose is taking the listener from an undesired state to a desired state, okay? And then because we have music, that fourth dimension, we can have an emotional journey that dips and ebbs and flows and does all of those things. Or sometimes you might have a story, but either way, the purpose is the core of what's happening. What we have is like all these other elements supporting it, which you can rate yourself on. So, for example, we have the structure, or what's called the arc, so that's the A, okay? And all of these things have to serve the purpose. So you're going to ask yourself and rate yourself out of 10, how well does the arc support the purpose? Then we'll have something called the thing, which is basically the hook or the chorus or the catchy bit of your song or the punchline. The piece of music that releases the most tension, that's called the thing. So how well does the song have a thing, and how well does that thing function in terms of supporting the purpose? And then we have hooks. So how hooky is your tune, and do the hooks support the purpose? And then lastly, we have what is called space, okay? And space is just the space that the music is in. So ideally, we don't want to have we don't want to put the listener in front of a computer, okay? And that's the space. We want the space to be imaginary. So if it's, a gangster rap thing, maybe you want to be in the warehouse or something, or on the streets, So, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a reverb to create space. I mean, you can actually just use found sound. Like I'm using some like naturey kind of kids playing in the background just to create a little bit of noise and ambience in this track that you kind of hear on the breakdown. And that's to create this sort of like space, this vibe, this emotion. So what it is we need to evaluate all of these areas that are supporting the purpose. So if we need to fix something, then it has to serve the purpose, or otherwise it's not. So if all of these things, right, score quite highly and there's nothing obvious jumping out of that music, then that music's good enough to release. And the other question you can ask yourself, Mellors, is is this music a good example of what it wants to be? You see, by asking that question, it separates us, our thoughts and feelings on our performance when we were making this track, okay, to actually just being to evaluate the track for what it actually is. And if it is a good example of what it wants to be, then release it. You don't have to like your music. I mean, a lot of my music I don't like, I think it's good enough and I put it out there, or I've just got sick of it because I've worked on it, and I want to move to the next thing. So once something's done, it's done, and I'm like on to the next thing, and I'm not that fussed. It just goes out to the world, and you move on. So I hope that kind of sort of helps with that. But Paths is very, very helpful, you know, being able to just evaluate that music and give yourself self feedback, because really as producers we need to be, it's our music and we need to, you know, have our opinion on it, you know, and not wait about for other people to go, oh, you've turned the hi-hat too loud or you've done that. We know what that music's about. And what you'll find is like other people's feedback is really unreliable. I mean, you know, I'm not really qualified to feedback on your music. Maybe from a technical point of view, I could say, well, this snare's too loud, but you might want the snare to be loud because there's a reason that snare's loud, because it's supporting a purpose in some way. Okay. So we just need to, you know, so I hate all that track feedback thing, paying for feedback, doing this, you know, because like none of it you have to know, you know. Like one thing I learned as a producer, right, is embrace uncertainty. Two things, okay, and be proactive at all times, because other people have agendas. You know, they might have had an argument with the missus and they listen to your music and think, oh, it's crap, you know, whatever, I wouldn't release it, or you just don't need that. So we need to be self-contained, self-sufficient. And that's what my coaching program's all about. It's about everybody being individual, sovereign individual in the music industry, right? Thinking and operating on your own terms without having to be reactive to what other people's opinions are on what you're doing. It's completely, you know, unnecessary. So there you go. And you know, anybody who's not, remember to in the description there's the link to Discord. So anybody who's not on Discord, if you go on the Discord, there is a coaching room there. You can ask questions like this and I'll attempt to answer them. If I don't answer them on there, I will start talking about them on here on these morning lives. Best advice you've heard in years? Yeah. I've I've got loads of it. So as I say, like, you know, I'm a trained music coach. I'm also a therapeutic musician as well, believe it or not. So it's kind of like it's you know, that's what I do aside from, you know, obviously being an artist. Coaching's been the thing that's kind of happened in the back end of my music career, because it's something that I stumbled on, and I mean, honestly, at like 2014, by 2015, my life was completely changed, you know, and you know, through coaching, it just like it's been the one biggest thing that's improved me, and it improves you as a musician playing your instrument, your production, how you listen to music, how you think about music, and also how you think of your life. Because like some of the coaching models I'll use things like conditions of success, and I'll have talked about that on previous lives. So you'll see like I think January when I did the lectures on here, there's like things where I'm talking about habits, and then I'm talking about your environment. I'm talking about how to make decisions, insight and analysis. I'm talking about how to overcome fear, how to understand and engage with your community, how to overcome boredom. So there's all these conditions of success, as well as you know, learning about divergent, convergent thinking and insight and analysis when we're making decisions. So there's all of this stuff that I coach in or I use as a lens to see where people are at with their music, and then it allows me to just do the diagnostics and then be able to help them through questioning or through creating games and musical exercises that will give that person the insight that they need to be able to move forward. But primarily, the reason the coaching thing's so powerful is because you're using the skills that you already have. If there's a skill deficit, then you'll be very clear on what that is, and then you can go off and acquire it. For example, you know, like with me, I was very skill heavy, and like my logic when I was younger, Hutch, was to learn every scale and every key, and don't do anything creative till you've mastered that. And that's just totally ridiculous, you know. What you're meant to be doing is like, you know, we're meant to be making music at all times. Like, you know, like when a baby is learning a language, we don't say, when it's making noises and things like that, we don't say, stop making that noise, you're not doing it right. Or learn all of these words and then make noises. We're not doing that. So I apply that to music. What we need to be doing is testing all the time, testing and finding what our actual voice is. And music is absolutely no different from language, And it really is interesting because sort of in the therapeutic side of music that I do, one of my specialities is what you call intensive interaction. So like one of my skills is to work with patients who are basically non-verbal with severe learning difficulties. So it might be an adult, and what you'll find is they'll have the IQ of like a 2 to 4 year old or something like that, and really don't have any ability to communicate. So they're in a kind of lifestyle where everybody's telling them what to do and they have no control over what they're doing. But one thing they do have control is when I come to work with them, is that I use music as a language, and they might start singing or grunting or squeaking or doing their own little thing, and then we create music around that. And at that point, it's like an improvisation. They actually have control. So music is a language, and like I've seen it, move and change people. I've seen people be, on the extreme end of it, extremely unwell, and then that be an anchor to them helping them get well. As well as I've seen people who've been, professional musicians that have lost their way, like myself. In 2014, I just couldn't lost the ability to make music. I was struggling. I was finding it really, really hard. And confusing and too many decisions and all this sort of stuff, and the process was slow, and I was in pain for like 3 months trying to make one track, So, that can happen to us, or we become too busy. So all of that, I coach people on how to be super productive. So that's how it works. And if anybody here is interested, you can book in. There's my email on the thing. If you just book in for a free half an hour chat with me, I can find out where you are with your music making, music career, and then we can see how to progress things from there. Because there are actually a number of options. You can either go a one-to-one coaching route with me, where I use basically direct coaching, which is massive. Non-directive coaching. And then we've got the direct coaching, where basically it's a mixture of sort of taught and coaching. And that's more the group thing. So, and then in a group, we all just get together. But I mean, the group thing's really cheap. I mean, you get like 2 hours in a room with just 4 other people, plus me as the coach. And, that's every week, and that's $237. And if you don't like it, because I know coaching is completely different to a lot of stuff out there, that basically, if you don't like it, I'll just give you your money back. It's fine. That's cool, because sometimes people just aren't ready, and I totally understand that. But if you're frustrated with how your music making's going, and it's like, I want to make music, but it's just like really awkward and painful, and I'm not getting, the pleasure out of it that I should be, then definitely I'm the person to come to, because one thing you will get is that love back for it, and you will see progress just happen, because at the end of the day, you're just using what you've already got. The skills that you've already got. That's it. All right, I've got to go now. So it's been great. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a bit slow because like half my stuff's not working, but I'm now going to go off and fix EXO and change that snare. Ready for tomorrow. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.